Welcome to the continuation of the discussion on accounting for relevant costing and decision making. So, let us proceed with by continuing answering the make or buy case. So the requirement number one is to decide, in deciding whether to make or buy the part, what are used total relevant costs to make the part. So ang tinatanong lang po dito is the cost, relevant cost to make the part. So when we say relevant costs, we mean the future costs that vary between alternatives. Sa cost to make the product. Cost to make the product. So alin ba dyan yung future cost na uh, everything in cost in here, itong buong 6, 24, 12, and 15 are future costs. Then, ang kailangan mo na lang i-analyze dyan ay alin dyan yung magva-vary between alternatives. So, ang magva-vary between alternatives ay yung mga variable cost. So, alin ba ang mga variable cost dyan? Direct materials, direct labor, and then variable overhead. Yung fixed overhead, ano ba ang sinabi dyan? Meron bang sinabi sa fixed overhead? 60% of the fixed overhead applied will continue regardless of what decision is made. So, ibig sabihin, whether bumili ka ng part or gumawa ka ng part, ay 60% ay ng fixed overhead ay magko-continue. So, ibig sabihin, 40% lang yung magva-vary between alternatives. So, yung 15 times 40% is 6. So, 6 na direct materials plus direct labor 24 plus variable overhead na 12 and plus avoidable fixed cost na 6 will be the relevant cost to make the part. Magkano? 48 pesos per unit. Next, number 2, which alternative is, so kung ang tinatanong dito sa item A is per unit, the answer is 48 per unit. If it is the total relevant cost pala ang tinatanong dito, it should be multiplied to 10,000. So 48 per unit times 10,000, that is 480,000. Okay. Item B, which alternative is desirable for you? So, di ba we go back, sabi, kapag make or buy case, kung saan ka daw makakatipid. Kung 48 per unit ang making the part, magkano ba ang buying the part? 53. So, saan ka makakatipid? In making the part. So, the answer is, which alternative is desirable for you? Ang mas desirable for you is to make the part at 48 per unit. Okay, let's proceed. Now, let's proceed with a sell or process further case. So, Belgium company produces 3 products, X, Y, and Z in a single process that costs 30,000. So, itong 30,000, ito yung tinatawag nating joint cost. The products can be sold as is or processed further into another product. Quantities, market values, and additional costs are as follows. So, products, binigay sa'yo XYZ, gallons, 10,000 each. The market value now, 1 per gallon, 2 per gallon, and 3 per gallon for X, Y, and Z respectively. So, ano lang ang sinasabi sa requirement? What should Belgium do? So, binigyan ka ng sell or process further. So, ang orientation mo dito ay, ibibenta ko na ba itong part or itong product ngayon or ipaprocess further ko para mas kumita ako. So, ano ang decision criteria natin dito? Kapag sell or process further, let's go back. Ang sabi dito, process further if additional revenue from the processing is greater than the further processing cost. Yung joint cost daw ay irrelevant. So, kapag yung additional revenue is greater than the processing cost, they i-process further mo daw. So, how do we compute for this? How do we compute for the additional revenue and the additional cost? So, kung titingnan mo, ang market value niya ngayon, eto, naka-identify, 1, 2, and 3. Pero kapag binenta mo, ay pinrocess further mo siya, ang magiging market value niya ay 3.2, 3.5, then 4.8. Then, you compute for your additional revenue. So, 3.2 minus 1 that is 2.2 times 10,000. So 2.2 times 10,000, that is 22,000. So 22,000 ang additional revenue mo kay X. Eh magkano ba ang additional cost? 10,000 sabi. So, ibig sabihin, mas malaki yung additional revenue mo. Therefore, i-process further mo si X. Okay? So, okay tayo kay X, you process further. Next, 3.5 minus 2 is 1.5 times 10,000. So, that is 15,000. So, 15,000 ang additional revenue mo kay Y. Pero ang additional cost mo ay 20,000. So, anong gagawin mo? I-process further mo o i-sell mo na ngayon? O ibenta mo na ngayon? The answer is, ibenta mo na lang ngayon kasi mas malaki yung additional cost mo dyan. 20,000, 15 lang ang kikitain mo. So, for Y, you sell at split of point. For Z, 4.8 minus 3 is 1.8 times 10,000. That is 18,000. So, 18,000, compare mo yun sa 15,000, mas malaki yung revenue, then i-process further mo si Z. So, anong gagawin ni Belgium company? Si X, i-process further. Si Y, i-sell at split of point. And then si Z, i-process further. So, that is the answer. Okay, let's proceed more. This is a special order case. Let us read. Fuller Company makes frames. A customer wants to place a special order for 600 frames in green with the company logo painted on the frame to be priced at 40 each. Normally, Fuller would charge 90 per frame for this type of order. Fuller figures that wood and glass will cost 16 per frame, variable overhead, machining and electricity is 4, direct labor is 12, and then one setup will be required at 1,000 pesos setup. The setup charge costs are 100% labor. Currently, the workers needed to set up 4 and make the frames are working at Fuller. Their wages will be paid whether or not the special order is accepted. So, Fuller's policy is to avoid layoffs to the extent possible. So, natandaan mo pa ba yung information? Hindi na, kasi sobrang haba. So, later, let's go back. 1. If the special order is accepted, by how much will operating income increase or decrease? So, let's go back with the decision criterion on special order. So, what are we going to do when it is a special order case? Ang sabi, you accept the special order when the additional revenue exceeds the additional cost. Additional revenue exceeds the additional cost. So, let us analyze. Okay, magkano yung items na bibilin? 600 frames na 40 pesos. So, 600 frames ang bibilin at 40 pesos. Then, magkano ba ang gagastusin daw? When, yung special order, ang gusto 600 frame. And then, ang ibabayad sa iyo for the 600 frames ay 40 per frame. Magkano magagastos mo? Ang sabi diyan, Fuller figures that wooden glass will cost 16 pesos per frame. Variable overhead of 4. Direct labor is 12. One setup will be required. Okay. So, kuhanin mo yung relevant cost in making the in accepting the special order, I mean. So, ang additional revenue mo po dyan is yung 40. 40 pesos times 600. Diba? Kasi yun yung ibabayad sa iyo. Ang additional cost mo po dyan is yung wood and glass na 16 per frame, variable overhead 4, and kasama ba itong direct labor? Okay. Please take a look at the direct labor, especially the last sentence in the paragraph. Ang sabi dito, their wages will be paid whether or not the special order is accepted. So, kahit na pa may special order or regular order pa yan, ay babayaran pa rin yung direct labor. So, isasama ba natin yung itong item na ito, yung 12? The answer is no. Bakit hindi isasama? Because it is a future cost but it does not vary between alternatives. Di ba ang sabi natin, relevant cost lang kapag future and it vary between alternatives. Okay, let's analyze. So, are we going to accept the special order related to this? So, magkano ang magiging additional revenue mo dyan? 600 times 40, then wag mo muna i-compute per total. So, 40 ka na lang muna. 40 minus 16 minus 4, that will give you 20. 20 ang yung advantage dyan. Then, yung 12, hindi na kasi i-consider. The setup charges are 100% labor. So, yeah, you do not consider yung related sa labor because it will be incurred whether or not it is a special order or a regular order. Fuller's policies avoid layoffs to the extent possible. Okay. Pansinin mo, mayroon bang sinasabi dyan related dun sa special order na makakaapekto sa regular customers? Wala naman, hindi ba? Because in case, merong cases na kung saan yung regular customers will not be, kapag inaccept yung special order, ay hindi na natin masiservisyuhan yung ating mga regular customers. So in this item, ang tinatanong is the operating income, whether it will increase or decrease. So based on our analysis, 40 minus 16 minus 4 is 20. So 20 ang magiging additional profit mo dyan. You multiply it to ilan ba? Ilan ang in order? 600. So 20 times 600 is 12,000. So 12,000, 20 times 600 is 12,000. That will be an increase on your operating income. So the answer for this is 12,000 increase in operating income. Okay. Let's proceed more with the continue or shutdown segment. So, may company, binigyan ka ng department A and B. So, meron ka dyang income statement. Sales up to your net income or loss. So, okay. I-analyze mo, tingnan mong mabuti. Si Department A, may income siya, 700,000. Si Department B, meron siyang net loss, 200,000. Based on this, kung titingnan mo yan and you are a haphazard strategic manager, your decision is to close Department B because apparently merong loss. However, if you have analyzed and you have studied strategic business analysis, cost accounting, and managerial accounting, you will be guided by the facts that you should not decide based on apparent loss, yung nakikita mo lang na loss based on income statement, but based on the analysis of the facts related to variable and fixed expenses. So let us take a look at the additional information. A study indicates that 340,000 of the fixed expenses being charged to Department B are sunk costs or allocated costs that will continue even if B is dropped. So, ibig sabihin, yung 340 pala na fixed expenses na naka-charge kay B ay magko-continue yan kahit na pa-close mo si B. So, i-analyze natin. Ibig sabihin, hindi mo pala maa-avoid yung 800,000 na yan. In addition, the elimination of Department B will result in a 10% decrease in sales of Department A. So kapag inalis mo pa daw si Department B, merong effect yan daw sa sales ni Department A. Ibig sabihin, baka yung product kasi ni Department A and B are complements or it is kumbaga, it is package or merong mga ganong condition. Baka complements itong products ni Department A and Department B or itong mga pinoproduce nilang items. Kaya mayroong decrease sa sales ng Department A. Hence, kung bababa ang sales ni Department A, di ba, sales is a benefit, and then ano ang related dyan? Yung variable expenses. Hindi naman pwedeng bumaba yung sales pero yung variable expenses remains. So, ibig sabihin, kung bababaya ang sales, bababa din yung variable expenses mo. Then, mayroon ang effect niyan doon sa contribution margin. So, for you to easily compute for this, you have to use the contribution margin of Department A. So, the requirement or the question is a question whether to drop Department B. So, are we going to drop Department B based on this illustration? So let us analyze first yung sinasabing 340,000 na unavoidable cost natin. Yung 340,000 na unavoidable cost. Okay? Okay, let's take a look at by analyzing it at a total approach. Total approach natin ito. So kapag dinrap natin si Department B, so tingnan mo muna ngayon, the total of net income is 500 nung nandyan si B. 500,000 income ka dyan. Kasi 700,000 income kay A, tapos loss kay B, kaya nabawasan. Naging 500,000 ang net income. So, i-total approach natin, we compute for a scenario wherein we drop or we discontinue or we shut down Department B, ano ang total effect niyan doon sa merchandising company. Okay, since the sales of Department B will be eliminated, so wala ka nang mabibenta dito, yung Department A na lang ang matitira. Since yung sales, ang sabi, it will decrease by 10% and it will have an effect. Therefore, it is imperative that the decrease in the sales will have a direct effect on the variable expenses. Then it is easy for us to compute for the contribution margin effect. So, 2,100,000 times 90%. Ibig sabihin, bababa ang contribution margin to 90%. Kasi may 10% decrease because of the shutdown of B. So, 2,100,000 times 10% is, you have to compute for this on yourself while you are looking at the discussion. It should be 1,890,000. That is the contribution margin of this new scenario wherein we drop Department B. Next, the fixed expenses. The fixed expenses for Department A is 1,400,000. Ibawas mo pa rin yan. Then, ang sabi dito, yung 800,000 daw na fixed expenses kay B, 340 doon ay magko-continue kahit na i-drop mo si B. So therefore, 1,890,000 minus 1,400,000 na fixed expenses ni A minus 340,000 na fixed expenses ni B. Na ngayon ay mapupunta na kay A dahil na-drop mo na si B. So what is your net income or your net loss? The answer should be net income of 150,000. So, 150,000 ang total company income mo ngayon. I-compare mo to sa total income mo kanina, 500,000. So, kung 500 kanina, ngayon 150,000, bumaba ka ng 350,000 sa income mo, total company income. So, therefore, what should you do? Are you going to drop Department B simply because of an apparent loss na 200,000? The answer is no. You should not drop Department B because ang effect niyan sa yung total company income ay reduction sa income ng 350,000. So that is ito na yung yung carefully evaluated decision making. So you being the accountant and you being the strategic manager, you should analyze the transactions or the alternatives based on the facts and not just mere on the face of the income statement or the apparent loss incurred. So yan ang pinag-aaralan natin dito. Okay, let's look at another problem, the allocation of the scarce resources. When we say scarce, these are limited resources. Okay, the company makes electronic products because the employees of one of the company's plants are on strike. The Chicago plant is operating at peak capacity. So, at peak sila. Ibig sabihin, uh, wala silang excess doon sa capacity. Kung ano yung capacity nila, yun din ang may demand. Kumbaga, wala silang pahinga. Kumbaga, this is a peak season for them. It makes two electronic products, MP3 and MP4. So currently, the company can sell as many of each product as can be made. But making MP4 players take twice as long in production labor time as an MP3 player. The company's production capacity is 100,000 labor hours per month. Data on each product are as follows. So we have the details of your MP3 and MP4 players, sales, variable cost, contribution margin, labor hours required, fixed costs 240 per month. So the requirement is to identify how many of each product should a company plant make. So ilan dapat ang gagawin based on the allocation of the scarce resources. So tingnan muna natin tong nasa table. Your contribution margin is 12 for MP3, for MP4, 20. Looking at your contribution margin alone, you have to you will haphazardly decides that you will be going to produce um, more of MP4 dahil mas malaki pala ang contribution margin ko dito sa MP4 players. However, because this is an allocation of scarce resources, you have to analyze gaano ba katagal gawin ang MP4 at MP3. So, tingnan mong mabuti. The labor hours required for MP3 is 1 and for MP4 is 2. So, ibig sabihin, tama yung sinasabi dito. The MP4 players take twice as long in production labor time. So, mas matagal gawin yung MP4. So, kung 20 ang contribution margin niya, mas mataas din pala ang kanyang requirement for labor hours. So, how do we compute for this? Let us take a look at our decision criterion related to the allocation of scarce resources. So, according to the allocation or optimization of scarce resources, we first identify and measure the constraint on the limited resources. So we identify the resource, which is the labor hours. We rank the products according to the highest contribution margin per unit of the scarce resources. We rank according to the highest contribution margin per unit of scarce resources. So please take note of that and please remember that. Contribution margin per unit of scarce resources. So hindi pwedeng mawala yun. Contribution margin per unit per scarce resources. So ito, contribution margin per unit pa lang ito. Wala pa yung per scarce resources. So ano pong gagawin dyan, sir? You just have to identify kung anong scarce resources. Na-identify natin na yun yung labor hours. Then, you just have to divide it. Contribution margin 12 divided by 1 is 12. So, your contribution margin per unit per scarce resource ng MP3 ay 12. Kay MP4, 20 divided by 2 is 10. So, ang contribution margin per unit per scarce resource mo is 10 for MP4. Ano yung sabi? Next, you rank daw according to the highest CM per unit per scarce resource. So, asan yung mas mataas? Yung 12 versus sa 10 ni MP4. So, 12. Ang tanong, how many of each product should the company plant make? Ilan dapat ang gagawin? Based on that. Ang sabi dyan, yung naka-red, the company can sell as many of each product as can be made. So, walang limitation on the products. Kung ilan yung magawa mo, pwede mo naman na siya. Kumbaga, wala kang limitation kung ilan ang pwede mong gawing MP3 at MP4. Since nakita mo na mas malaki ang contribution margin per unit per scarce resource mo sa MP3, then, lahat ng labor hours mo ay ibigay mo kay MP3. So, how many of each product should the company plant make? Ilan ba ang labor hours? 100 ang labor hours mo. Gaano ba katagal si MP3 gawin? Isang oras. So, isang oras, isang MP3. So, ilang product ang gagawin mo for MP3 dahil yan yung pinakamataas na CM per unit per scarce resource. The answer is 100,000 units of MP3 player. Lahat yun ay yung 100,000 labor hours mo ay uh, ibibigay mo na lang sa paggawa ng MP3 player kasi mas mataas yun. Merong cases on other problems na maglilimit na ang MP3 ay pwede lang hanggang maximum lang ay 50,000. Therefore, yung kalahati pwede mong gamitin for MP4. Pero in this case, walang sinasabing ganun. Kasi ang sabi dyan sa naka-red, the company can sell as many of each product as can be made. So the answer is 100,000 units for MP3 players. Okay, let's proceed with the other item. Assume that you are about to graduate from your university. So, gagraduate ka na daw and are deciding whether to apply for a graduate school or enter the job market. So, magtutuloy ka ba daw ng pag-aaral or magtatrabaho ka na? To help make the decision, you have gathered the following data. So, pag graduate mo, gawin mo ito. And then, you analyze whether are you going to enter the job market or you apply for a graduate school. Sir, bakit ako mag-graduate school ka pa? Basically, this is an additional credential to you. So the normal expectation is that kapag ikaw ay naka-earn ng yung masteral degree ay you will be landing on a higher starting salary. So parang ganon. So let us take this as an hypothetical problem. So the course incurred for the bachelor's degree nung yung course mo ay 163,000 daw. The out-of-pocket cost for the master's degree, total na yan, is the 92,000. Estimated starting salary kapag ikaw ay BA or kumbaga bachelor's degree ka. Estimated salary starting with a MA or parang master's degree. And then estimated time to complete the master's degree, 2 years daw. And the estimated time from present to retirement is 40 years. The requirement, 1, relevant factors to your decision. 2nd, opportunity cost. 3rd, and the out-of-pocket cost of the master's degree. So let us first analyze the transaction. Item A, relevant factors to your decision. Ano ba yung mga relevant factors? Lahat ng factors na future and vary between alternatives. Alin ba ang mga future dyan? The cost incurred for the bachelor's degree is a sunk cost. Hindi na yan. Kasi nga, kumbaga tapos ka na eh. So, hindi mo na yan, kumbaga, na-incur mo na yan in the past, wala nang, it is a past cost or it is a sunk cost. Irrelevant na yan on the decision making kasi ano pang magagawa mo for the cost of the tuition na ibinayad mo noong first year, second year, third year, and fourth year ka, nakagraduate ka na nga. Next, the out-of-pocket cost for the master's degree. Is it relevant? It is relevant kasi out of pocket. Natatandaan mo, discussion natin sa out of pocket cost, it is relevant in the decision making. Kapag pinili mo yung master's degree, yan yung pwede mong gastusin. Ano yung out of pocket cost na yan? E de yung maybe the cost of the tuition na pwede mong i-incur, yung mga tuition fee, the photocopying fees when you are pursuing your master's degree. So yung mga ganon. Next is estimated starting salary with a bachelor's degree. So kung pinili mo na magtrabaho na, ito yung sweldo mo. Kapag pinili mo namang mag-masters at nakapagtapos ka ng masters, ito naman daw yung sweldo mo. So what is the relevant cost here? For estimated salaries, yung difference nila, 66,800 minus 48,400 is the relevant factor or relevant cost in your decision. Kasi yung amount na 48,400, same Kumbaga, 48,400 kay bachelor's degree salary, ganun din kay master's degree. So, it is a future cost that does not vary between alternatives. So, yung excess lang noon ang kunin mo, the difference between the salaries. So, 68,800 minus 48,400, that will be a relevant cost to you. Next, yung time to complete the master's degree, is it relevant? Remember, ang tinatanong dito is the factor and not the cost. Kumbaga, pinapa-itemize lang sa'yo kung alin dyan ang mga relevant on your decision. Yes, itong estimated time to complete the master's degree is future and it is relevant or it vary between the alternatives. Next, estimated time from present to retirement is 40 years. Yes, it is relevant. Kasi kung ikaw ay magma-master's degree, ma-adjust yan. Kasi magma-master's degree ka ng 2 years pa. So therefore, kumbaga, 38 years ka na lang kapag ikaw ay nag-masters to retirement. So, what is the answer for item A? 1 is the out-of-pocket cost. Second, the difference between the salaries in BA and MA. And then third, the estimated time to complete the master's degree, 2 years. And then, the 40 years estimated time from present to retirement. So, yun. The 40 and 38 years. Basta ang kailangan natin i-identify dyan is the estimated time from present to retirement. Yun. It can either be 40 and can either be 38. Okay, let's go with item B. Opportunity cost associated with earning the master's degree. Opportunity cost, so the benefit forgone. Benefit forgone. Kapag ikaw ay nag-masteral degree, ano ang mawawala sa'yo? Kung pinili mo sanang magtrabaho na. Anong mawawala sa iyo kapag nag-master's degree ka ng 2 years? Ang mawawala sa iyo is your salary. Dapat sumusweldo ka na nung mga panahong ikaw ay nagma-master's degree. Magkano ba ang sweldo mo dapat? 48,400 ang sweldo mo kung nagtrabaho ka na kaagad. Times 2 years. So parang ang assumption dito is the 48,400 is the total annual salary, pero parang masyadong maliit 'yan. I think this is represented, hindi ko alam kung dollars, pero parang sobrang laki naman. But for our hypothetical discussion, you have to analyze the salary at an annual rate. So 48,400 times 2 years, yun ang opportunity cost mo associated with earning the master's degree. Kasi dapat kinita mo na yun kung ikaw ay nagtrabaho. Pero dahil nag-master's degree ka, ang opportunity cost nun is the 48,400 times 2, which is 96,800. Okay? So I want you to take note while we are discussing. Please take note of the items para mas madali sa'yo mabalik-balikan siya. Okay, let's proceed with item C. The out-of-pocket cost to obtain the master's degree. The out-of-pocket cost to obtain the master's degree is given. The 92,000 in the master's degree. Out-of-pocket cost to obtain the master's degree given. 92,000. So bakit sinama ko pa ito on this discussion? Because I want to emphasize this. Yung out-of-pocket cost for the master's degree should be inclusive of the cost that will only be incurred when you took the master's degree. Anong ibig kong sabihin? Kasi yung for example, merong mga out-of-pocket cost na hindi mo dapat isama diyan sa master's degree. So, there are other problems na pwedeng ma-encounter mo related to this. Halimbawa, yung titirhan mong bahay, yung kakainin mo during your master's degree, it should not be included in the out-of-pocket cost for the master's degree because kahit naman ikaw ay nagtatrabaho na, you have to eat your food, you have to provide for your clothing or your shelter. So ibig sabihin, you have to be reminded that the out-of-pocket cost indicated in the 92,000 only includes the cost that would be incurred when you took the master's degree. yung related lang doon sa pagkuha mo ng master's degree na hindi mo mai-incur when ikaw ay nagtatrabaho na. Kasi yung, for example, yung board and lodging, yung food, yung clothing, lahat yan ay mai-incur mo rin kahit ikaw ay nagtatrabaho na. So that is a reminder, kaya isinama ko itong out-of-pocket cost to obtain the master's degree. But for requirement C, the answer is 92,000 still. Okay? Okay tayo. Okay, let's proceed more with other items. This is an equipment replacement decision. So please take a look at the problem. Binigyan ka ng old equipment, new equipment. So may details ng cost, remaining life, depreciation, cash operating cost, salvage value, and the current salvage value and the salvage value in 5 years. Okay. The requirement for item A is the sunk cost. So what are the sunk costs on this decision? Sunk costs are past costs. Ano yung past cost dyan? The original cost na 350,000. Kasi ay, na-incur mo na yan before. Na-discuss ko na rin ata ito before kanina. So the answer for item A is 350,000. Next, irrelevant non-differential future cost. Ito yung future pero non-differential. Ibig sabihin, parehas. Kaya nga siya irrelevant. Future siya pero it does not vary between alternatives. Alin dyan? Cost ang pinag-uusapan. The answer is the 16,000 annual cash operating cost. Kasi sa old equipment, ang cost mo dyan 64,000. Sa new equipment, ang cost mo dyan 16,000. So may portion dyan sa 64 na 16,000 na parehas dun sa new equipment. So ibig sabihin, yun ay yung 16,000 amount is does not vary between alternatives. So what's the answer? 16,000 cash operating cost, yun ay non-differential future cost. At saka yung salvage value in 5 years, yung 0-0. Diba? It is a future cost but it does not vary between alternatives. So 16,000 cash operating costs and then the 0 salvage value. Yun yung answer for item B. Next, the relevant cost. So the equipment replacement decision. Alin dyan ang relevant cost? One is the 396,000 original cost ng new equipment. Kasi kapag binili mo tong new equipment, maglalabas ka ng 396,000. So this is relevant. Next, kapag binili ko tong new equipment, anong gagawin ko dun sa old equipment? Ibebenta ko siya at how much? 88,000, the current salvage value. So that is relevant in the decision making. Next, kapag binili ko itong new equipment, meron ba akong matitipid? Meron. Yung cash operating cost na dati 64,000 pero ngayon yung operating cost ko na lang ay magiging 16 kasi baka mas efficient itong new equipment, mas lesser ang repairs and maintenance kaya bumaba yung cash operating cost. So magkano ang relevant cost ko dyan? 64,000 minus 16,000. So that is 48,000. So what's the answer for item C? 396,000 na new equipment, 88,000 na salvage value ng old equipment, and then the 48,000 na operating savings. Kumbaga savings mo yon because of the lesser cost. Next, D. Opportunity cost associated with the alternative of keeping the old machine. Okay. Ano daw ang opportunity cost naman kapag kinip ko itong old machine, hindi ako bumili ng bago? Ano yung opportunity cost is the benefit forgone. Ano yung mawawala sa akin kapag binili ko kapag niretain ko itong old equipment? Ano yung yung benefit na hindi ko na makukuha? The answer is the 88,000 salvage value. Kasi kung i-retain ko itong equipment, hindi ko na pwedeng ibenta ng 88,000. Diba? Kapag niretain ko tong equipment, ito pa rin yung gagamitin ko on the operations, hindi ko na makukuha yung cash ng 88,000 na pwede sanang pagbentahan noong old equipment. So that's the answer. Ano pa? The savings. Di ba makakasave ka sana ng 48,000 dahil 64 yung operating cost, magiging 16, makakasave ka sana ng 48,000. Pero dahil hindi mo binili yung new equipment, di ka nagpalit, benefit for gone na yon, yung 48,000 sanang masisave mo, yung operating savings mo, yung potential savings mo sana. So the answer for D is 48,000 savings and then the 88,000 salvage value ng old equipment. Okay, letter E, incremental cost of the new equipment. To purchase the new equipment. Incremental cost to purchase the new equipment. Magkano yung incremental cost to purchase the new equipment? Magkano mo siya bibilhin? 396,000. Magkano yung pagbibentahan mo ng salvage value ng old equipment? 88,000. So 396 minus 88,000 is 308,000. 308,000 ang original cost minus the salvage value of the old, and then you consider then the opportunity cost na 48,000 on this decision. So the question is, are you going to retain the old equipment or are you going to are you going to buy the new equipment? Based on the relevant costing and the analysis of the additional costs and the revenues, the cost, kung saan ka makakatipid, it is better for you to retain the old equipment dahil mas malaki yung magagastos mo for this transaction. Kakaunti lang ang benefit for gone, kakaunti lang ang salvage value compared to the original cost na 300,000 ng new equipment. Okay. Let's proceed more. I think this will be the second to the last problem. We have the cost to manufacture and the cost to purchase. This is a make or buy problem. Assuming that the company's internal production costs are avoidable if the company purchases rather than makes the product, what will be the net annual cost advantage to purchasing the products? Production is at 220,000 units. So binigyan ka ng cost to manufacture, simple lang, in-identify niya per unit na. To purchase, binigyan ka din. So, ang sabi dito, kung bibili ka daw, assuming bibili ka, anong ma-avoid mo? Lahat daw ng internal production cost ay ma-avoid mo. Yung total na 4.8 ay hindi mo na may incur. Avoidable lahat daw yon. Ang tanong, what would be the net annual cost advantage to purchasing the products? O the 4.8 minus 4 is 0.8 times 120,000. That is 96,000. That is your net annual cost advantage in purchasing the product. Yun yung matitipid mo when you decides to purchase the unit, the raw material siguro yan. 96,000 for item A. For item B, assume that the fixed overhead costs have unavoidable components. So, merong unavoidable components daw yung fixed overhead na kahit pa bumili ka sa labas ay magko-continuous na may incur even if it purchases rather than makes. How much of the fixed must be avoidable for the company to be indifferent as to making or buying the products? What do we mean when we say indifferent? Indifferent, ibig sabihin, walang pinagkaiba yung alternative 1 at alternative 2. Yun ang ibig niyang sabihin dyan. So, ang tinatanong niya dito ay, magkano dapat yung avoidable fixed overhead para maging indifferent ka? Yung hindi mo alam kung anong pipiliin mo, whether you manufacture or whether you purchase the part or the material. Since the cost of purchasing the material is at 4 pesos, yun ang magiging basis mo dyan, 4 pesos. Okay. Let's take a look. Alin ang hinahanap natin? The fixed overhead. So you have to separate the fixed overhead. So 4.8, di ba 4.8 ang cost, total cost to manufacture mo? 4.8. Ibawas mo na muna itong 1.12. 4.8 minus 1.12 is 3.68. So 3.68 ang total ng iyong variable cost. 3.68. Eh sabi, kailangan daw parehas. 4 dito, 4 din dito. So 3.68, magkano ang idadagdag mo sa kanya para maging 4 pesos? So ganun lang siya. 4 minus 3.68 is 0.32. So yun dapat daw, that is the answer. 0.32 per unit should be the fixed overhead avoidable. Para maging indifferent ka, para parehas na 4 ang cost per unit to manufacture and cost per unit to purchase. So that's the answer. Okay, let us take a look at this last problems, which I will be leaving for you. I will be providing the answer for this, and I want you to compute it on yourself while you are reviewing or discussing while you are reviewing how do we apply, because marami naman na tayong discuss related to decision making and relevant costing. So I want you to apply what you have learned para hindi ko naman na ibibigay lahat yung solutions. It comes from your end. So let us read. So SBS Realty manages 5 townhouses in Makati. So please see the tabulation. When the company president saw the data, he was dismayed. Only townhouse 1 is earning profit. So nung nakita ko daw for example, ako yung manager, strategic manager, nung nakita ko ang income statement, I was dismayed. Nadismaya ako because bakit yung townhouse 1 lang ang kumikita and the rest ay incurring losses. Hence, he is considering to sell townhouse 2 to 5. So, based on the apparent loss, dahil nakita ko on the face of the income statement, dapat benta yung 2 to 5. But before making a final decision, you as the accountant was asked to recommend. But because meron akong curiosity as to how the losses came from, I asked the accountant. So, one, the note is the accountant uncovered. So, tinanong daw kita, for you to recommend. Are we going to sell the townhouses, the townhouses which are incurring an apparent loss? The accountant uncovered that included in the total expenses is 18,000. So please remember that the figures are in 000, ibig sabihin in thousands sila ha. Of corporate overhead allocated to the townhouses based on rental income. These costs are unavoidable. So for item A, which townhouse should be sold? For item B, if the appropriate townhouses were sold, the company's total income would increase or decrease by. So I want you to analyze this. Binigyan ka ng rental income, binigyan ka ng expenses, then binigyan ka ng profit. Pero nung nag-analyze ka daw, ang sabi dito, dun sa expenses mo, etong total nito, yung 9.12, etong expenses na ito, lahat ng expenses na yan, 18 million daw doon ay unavoidable. Ibig sabihin, ano ibig sabihin ng unavoidable? Kahit na ibenta mo pa yung townhouses 2 to 5, mai-incur pa rin yun. So you have to analyze whether are we going to sell that particular townhouses or meron lang mga ibang item. Sir, paano po ang gagawin dito? Ibig sabihin kasi nitong expenses na naka-lump sum dito, may portion siya na avoidable at may portion siya na unavoidable. So what you need to do here is to separate avoidable and unavoidable costs para mas madali nating ma-identify kung aling mga townhouses ang i-close lang natin. Kasi hindi pwedeng isama mo sa computation yung 18 million na corporate overhead allocated na unavoidable kasi nga magko-continuous pa rin yan. So, ang tingnan mo lang yung avoidable. So, paano mo siya isa-separate? Ang sabi dito, naka-allocate daw yung 18 million based on the rental income. So, what are you going to do? I-add mo muna. 15 million plus 18 million 150 plus 35,205 plus 28,170 plus 15,975. I-total mo lahat yon, and the total, yun yung gamitin mong denominator on your ratio and proportion. So, for example, 18 million times 15 million divided by the total, yung na-compute mong total ng rental income ng 1 to 5. For townhouse 1, ang iyong unavoidable, di ba? 18 million kasi ang pinanggalingan. 18 million times 15 over the total is 2,400,000. Yan ang iyong unavoidable. So, 2,400,000 ang portion ng unavoidable dyan. So, kung 12 million ang expenses na naka-allocate kay Townhouse 1, 12 million minus 2,400,000, that is 9,600,000 lang ang avoidable expenses for Townhouse 1. So, kung 15 million ang rental income ni Townhouse 1, minus avoidable expenses niya na 9,600,000, that will give you a margin or yung income niya talaga na 5,400,000. So, positive yung Townhouse 1. And the rest, you have to compute based on that logic. Yung number 2, paano natin kukumputin? O the same procedure, 18 million times 18,150 divided by yung total ng rental income. So, yan na yung, ano yung na-compute mo? That is your unavoidable overhead. Unavoidable overhead na kahit pa i-eliminate mo yaang mga townhouses na yan ay magko-continue pa rin. So hindi fair na isama mo yan sa computation ng yung relevant costing. So paano gagawin? The 19,500,000 minus yung na-compute mo dyan, which should be 2,904,000. Ang iyong avoidable expenses na ngayon ay 16,596,000. So, 18,150,000 minus 16,596,000 is equal to 1,446,000 positive. So, dahil positive ang margin or ang profit for Townhouse 2, dapat hindi mo yan i-close. Okay. Please continue using that logic for Townhouse 3, 4, and 5. And I will now be giving the answer for this problem. So, dapat makompute mo ito based on your own assessment. For item A, which townhouses or townhouse should be sold? The answer for item A is Townhouse 4 and Townhouse 5. Kasi sila yung nagkaroon ng negative na margin or income. Si Townhouse 4, ang kanyang loss ay negative 3,322.8 and Townhouse 5, negative 969. Next, for item B, if the appropriate townhouses were sold, the company's total income would increase or decrease by, so kung ibebenta mo daw yung nag-negative, yung Townhouse 4 at 5, anong mangyayari sa total income? Dahil negative nga yun, ibig sabihin, yung total income mo, mag-i-increase na yan. It will increase by, magkano? 4,291.8. I-add mo lang po yung negative na na-compute mo dun sa Townhouse 4 at Townhouse 5, yun na yung sagot. 4,291.8. Dahil pag ineliminate mo sila, mawawala yung loss mo. So, ibig sabihin, tataas ang yung income by that amount. So, I think that ends the discussion on decision making and relevant costing. Thank you.